I'm doing good. I've had a very long day, but I think I'm good. It's 8 p.m. I've had a long 12-hour day at work, and
Oh
now I'm back
my.
at work here again.
I'll make it quick for you. No
No,
worries.
no. You do your thing, man. I'm all good. I'm all yours.
Now, congratulations on this film. I got to speak to Travis right now and left me at, whoa, you did all your stunts.
Yeah. Yes,
That's
I did.
brilliant. Can you talk about
I
it?
mean, yeah, look, it's simple, Nancy. I was just, I think the one thing for me was, people how people in Hollywood, when you see all these big blockbuster films and you see all these big Hollywood films do all these big action films, but you really see them do their own stunts from beginning to end. And there's various reasons for that. Obviously, because, hey, man, you want to protect the talent can't get injured. So they're quite restricted in terms of, the level and or the intensity of stunts that they do get to do. So I understand why a lot of them maybe don't do it. But I think for me, it was just about being able to say, man, that I did it. I've always had the desire to want to challenge the body, and to challenge the human body. I've done it in various things before that, outside of filming and acting and filmmaking. I've always been in the gym. I've always, tried to, see what the body does and what the body can take. And then when the opportunity, came to me with Indemnity, I thought, geez, man, what a good opportunity. So I said, hey, man, I want to be a part of the film, but I'm going to have to do my own stunts. Everyone went, hey, what do you mean? And it. I think that was one of my biggest requests, was just that if I'm going to be a part of the film. Travis called me one day, actually. He said, hey, man, so do you want to make this film? After a very long process of auditioning and doing, screen tests, he called me up one day and said, let's do the film. And I said to him, I remember saying to him that, hey, man, if I'm going to do this film, I really want to do my own stunts. Excuse me. And he said, yeah, absolutely, man. Like, if you're keen on doing it, if you really feel you can do it, you want to do it, let's go. I'll tell the bosses, I'll tell them Jarrid wants to do it. And I think, to their credit, I really appreciate them for trusting me and allowing me to say I can do it, and then sending me, to various training programs with our stunt people and various rigging folks. So I think it was really awesome, and I really appreciate them trusting me and giving me the opportunity to show them, and also show that we can do things on such a big scale. And I mean, locally do things on such a big scale, and it might not be with, studio houses budget, but we can say that, hey, man, we did something very special in terms of action, coupled with some really good storytelling there in terms of the drama. So we had a good mash of like various genres there within one film. But all the action stuff, it was lovely, man. I had a blast.
Which one was your favorite stunt scene?
Which one was my favorite stunt scene? All of them. I think all of them were. But I think if I had to choose, I would say it was day one, man. It was the elevator scene. It was. I think our very first day of filming was one of our biggest fight sequences of the whole entire film, and that set the tone for the rest of the film. And I think it was also an opportunity for the producers, the director, the stunt department, who was helmed by Grant Powell and Vernon Billenser, and all the riggers and everybody, to really kind of see that, to see if all the hard work and training and preparation that we have put in place over a 3-month period with myself as an actor in terms of preparing for the role, and also the various departments, from art department, your set dressers, your camera department, etc. I think it was one of those moments where it was all the elements came together. Day one, we were doing one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fight sequence in such a small confined space. And I think that was really the moment where if everything was going to go wrong, it would go wrong there, and if everything went right, it would go right, and that would set the tone for the whole film. And to everybody's credit, and to everybody's, and I think it's also it's a testament to everyone's professionalism, and also the experience that everybody comes with, that we were able to pull off 2 days of shooting in the elevator. And that really, I think after that big sequence that we shot, everyone was like, man, we actually can do this, man. This is going to be epic. And I think by the end of that sequence, which took us, I think it was 2 days, we all were really excited to just keep going, you know. So that to me was probably my favorite fight or action sequence to do, because it was the first, and it was also one of those things where by the end of it we knew that we were more than able and capable of doing something at the scale. And I think that was really special for everybody, you know.
Mm-hmm. So yes, there's really a lot of action involved, but there's also the down part where your character covers the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, and that's what makes Indemnity interesting, I think, is here we have this film that deals with a really important subject matter, and a really intense trauma, and that is PTSD. And I'm an actor that love to, you know, I have a body of work where I was able to do stuff, you know, that really spoke deep into the difficulties in society. And so I've been stretched before, and I think straight off the back, that was the one thing that got me hooked, was the psychological side of who this character was and who Theo was. And I think PTSD was quite interesting for me. So obviously, you know, I don't suffer from PTSD, or so I thought. But you know, you very quickly realize that when you do some research and you really take the time to understand and read up about it and speak to people about it, that, you know, that there's a lot of people that deal with it. Mm-hmm. Me myself, you know, I didn't realize that I am, you know, struggling with PTSD. So it was interesting for me to kind of do some research and go and read up, and you go, hey man, it forced me to kind of go back into myself and go, do I suffer from some form of PTSD? Some mild form? And the honest truth is that I think everybody does, if you take the time to really sit and think about life and think about your own life and the experiences. There are mild versions of PTSD, and that's what really made me connect, was that, hey man, I think I suffer from PTSD. You know, I might not be taking medication for it or maybe seeing someone, but I do suffer from that because of, as a result of my upbringing, of, you know, something might have happened to me when I was a kid, etc., etc., etc. And so that made me realize that this is actually a universal thing. There's some connection, there's some human connection with PTSD with everybody, not just with specific people. The most extreme cases being, you know, our police officers, our war veterans, our firefighters specifically, who get to see gruesome things. And I think that was one thing that made me realize, the one thing that stood out for me was that people think you start suffering from PTSD by seeing, by going through a really traumatic experience, a gruesome traumatic experience, being seeing someone, you know, die in front of you, or, you know, pulling the trigger, or having flashbacks of, you know, being in war with big explosions and this and that or the other. But there are other versions of things that cause and trigger PTSD. And that was interesting for me, and I really wanted to kind of shed light on that as well. And so when I did the research and I could connect with Theo, you know, I felt a really big responsibility to also be able to tell that version of our film, and also have this big action film on the back as a big backdrop, but make sure that we do both genres justice, and that's telling the story of someone suffering from PTSD, and really humanizing him, you know, and because it's very easy for people to, you know, lose track of stuff like that. You have to engage your audience and make sure that your audience understands and almost cares for you at the end. And so I really wanted to make sure that I placed those moments really well, so that it doesn't come across as you know, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, because you have to I had to make sure that, you know, I am aware of the fact that a lot of people deal with this on a daily basis, and so I need to deal with that as best as I can, and as respectfully and honestly and as I can. And I hope that I did that, because, you know, it's our responsibility as filmmakers to shed light on these things. And for me, I was just really lucky to be able to do it on a film that had all these big action sequences and moments. But I also had to remind the audience that, hey man, there's some really important things that we're dealing with in society on a universal scale. And I just hope that people really just take the time to look at that as well, you know.
And also remind people that it's okay to put your pride aside, you know.
Absolutely.
Seek help.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we also deal with is you know, as men, we grow up, you know, we grow up not it's easy for us as men, as young boys growing up, to, you know, influence one another with that manliness, you know, that toxic masculinity thing of like, hey man, you can't cry because you a boy, you a man, you gotta man up. And so we develop this notion that is how we have to deal with it. We are not allowed to show emotion, and not allowed to show weakness, because that will be seen as a weakness, and you won't be seen as a big boy or as a man. You'd be seen as a weak one, you know. And so we are almost taught that growing up. And I think that's an important thing for me, is to, I wish now, you know, I mean, I was a victim to that, where I was like, hey man, I was told, you got to man up, you can't cry, you know, sissies cry, you know. But you very quickly realize that that's not how life works. It is very important to know that it is okay to say, I need help, you know, and show emotion, and it's okay to cry. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, we kind of deal with here is breaking that barrier, is that it is okay to go and seek help if you are dealing with something. Because it's you know, young men today would go through their whole life thinking that they don't need help, and cause so much destruction throughout their life, and not realize how much damage they're doing until it's too late. And so, you know, that is the question we ask, man, like, how much would it take before you actually acknowledge that I need help, or I need to, you know, speak up, or let my guards down before, you know, I acknowledge that I need help? Would you cause, you know, what does it take? Loss of life? You know what I mean? So I think that's also something interesting that we deal with there, is what is the extent that men would go to before they acknowledge and honestly say that they need help, you know?
I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time and discussing the film and covering very important points.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me too, Nancy.
Of course. Thank you. And hopefully you wrap up soon. Get some rest.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers, man. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.